Palm Desert City Council meeting, successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority meeting of Thursday, March 24th, 2022. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Nestande.
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Present.
Mayor Harnick.
Here.
All council members are present.
Thank you so much. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Gina Nestande and the inspiration/invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Sabby Jonathan.
I had to get my glasses to unmute. There we go. Please join me as we honor our country and our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me make sure you can hear me okay. I was having technical issues. Wonderful. It's wonderful when it works. Perspective, something that is often forgotten. We absolutely have our share of problems and challenges. High gas prices, inflation, droughts, etc. And yes, those are substantial challenges. Our brothers and sisters in the Ukraine, however, have other challenges, namely survival. We hope and pray for their safety. So let's remember to maintain perspective. Let's understand that we are amazingly fortunate that in spite of our problems and challenges, we are some of the luckiest people on the planet because we live here in this country and especially in this amazing community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, was there any reportable action from closed session?
Yes, there was. With reference to the agenda, the closed session agenda item B3, the lease to lift to rise, the city council unanimously approved a new lease to lift to rise subject to certain conditions, and that will be available once that document is finalized. With respect to the rest of the items on the closed session agenda, direction was given, but no reportable actions were taken. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was going to repeat that, but I think it finally came through. Our technology didn't let us down. Let's go to now awards, presentations, and appointments. Is there somebody on this meeting to receive? Maybe that's Cheryl, the proclamation.
Yes.
Okay. I'll read the proclamation, and then Cheryl, if you'd like to say a few words, we would welcome you to do so.
Thank you, Mayor.
And this is for Donate Life Month. So whereas organ, eyes, tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need, and whereas more than 106,000 individuals nationwide and more than 20,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and on average, 17 people die every day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas a single individual's donation of heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives, tissue donation can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. And whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic and African American communities, and whereas California residents can sign up to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID cards, or sign up with the Donate Life California Donor Registry online at any time by visiting www.donatelifecalifornia.org. Now, therefore, I, Jan C. Harnick, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, California, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as DMV Donate Life Month in the City of Palm Desert, and urge all citizens to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card. Cheryl, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mayor Harnick. And I appreciate you and the city council members declaring month as National Donate Life Month, as it is a nationwide activity for the month of April. And my name is Cheryl Mahan, and I am the ambassador from One Legacy to the City of Palm Desert, as well as the ambassador to the City of Palm Desert DMV. So this proclamation will hang in the DMV office, and so we thank you for that. To give you a little bit of my story, I am a living kidney donor. I was first impacted by kidney disease as I watched my father go through many years of dialysis before he did not receive a kidney and he passed away. PKD is polycystic kidney disease. Those three little initials have forever changed my family's life for generations. My grandparents had PKD, as I said, my father, my siblings, and now it has unfortunately gone down to the next generation of my nieces and nephews. I am one of the lucky ones. I did not inherit that gene. So I could be in a situation as my other family members and have been waiting on the deceased, the transplant list to receive a kidney. However, I was fortunate enough, like I said, to not receive the disease gene, and I was able to donate a kidney to my brother in 2009. Him getting that second chance at life has been able to enable him to see his daughter get married and his 3 grandchildren be born. My sister received her gift of life last year, and she was able to celebrate her son's wedding. So this is a very personal connection to donation that I have. I would encourage everybody to, as you said, Mayor Harnick, register either at the DMV or at the www.donatelifecalifornia.org website. Once again, thank you for listening to my story. Thank you, Mayor, and to the City of Palm Desert, One Legacy, and Donate Life California. Appreciate you declaring April as Donate Life Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and showing how easy it is to truly make a huge difference. We appreciate all that you've done. Thank you so much. Okay, from here, we will move to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor Harnick. I do have Thomas Sowell online here. He would like to update the council with a few of the initiatives that we're working on right now. So if he can be elevated.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Thomas Sowell, your Public Affairs Manager, and this is a busy time for the city, as I'm sure you're all very aware, but to let everyone else know as well, we have a few things that are happening now and coming up. On Saturday, March 26th is the MS Walk, and on Saturday, April 9th, the 2022 Autism Society Inland Empire Autism Walk. Both of those are happening at Civic Center Park. We've got the Palm Desert State of the City next week happening on Wednesday, March 30th, and the following day are the Senior Inspiration Awards on Thursday, March 31st. We also have an upcoming event with the Riverside County Teen Poet Laureate, who I mentioned at the last meeting. She's a Palm Desert High School student, Katie Zinn. We'll be doing a reading at Palm Desert Library on Tuesday, April 5th, and she'll be doing, I believe, the following week a reading at La Quinta Library as well. We're very proud of her. And then this week, tonight and through Saturday night, we're finishing up Fashion Week El Paseo, which has been exciting. Nightly fashion events started last Saturday and continuing through this Saturday with the finale. And then on Friday begins the Palm Desert Food and Wine Festival, which will run through Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then on March 27th begins the Living Deserts Glow in the Park event, which is an interesting new take on their Wildlights event, featuring lantern creations in the evening, presenting wild places from around the globe. That should be a lot of fun. And that will be going on for 2 months, I believe, nightly at the Living Desert. And then El Paseo Cruise Night is on Friday, April 1st from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on El Paseo. And so to learn about these and any other thing that's happening in the city, on the city side, go to cityofpalmdesert.org, cityofpalmdesert.org. And to learn about entertainment events, go to discoverpalmdesert.com/events. And you'll find lots of information there. Thank you very much.
Oops, thank you so much. Okay, we'll move to council member reports and requests for action. Council member Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have none at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member Nastandi.
I have no comments this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, and how about council member Kelly?
I will follow suit. Plenty to say in a short while, so I'll spare you right now.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Sorry to break suit. I have 2 quick items. Number one, I wanted to let my colleagues on council as well as the public know that at the direction of council, we had our meeting of the North Sphere Park stakeholders along with staff to plan for the RFP that will be going out. And that process continues. It was a very, very productive meeting with lots of good input from the stakeholders. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that park soon, but it is in process. And one day soon, we'll have our second regional park. The other thing that I wanted to bring to the council's attention, if I can share screen very briefly and for the public's attention, is this slide showing on your screens? Yay, I'm seeing some nods. So this comes from Desert Community Energy. Our city is on that board, as you know. And if you have looked at your electric bill, whether it's from Southern California Energy or DCE or whatever, you know that there's a new plan, time of use plan. And the main point of this is to avoid using electrical energy during peak hours, which are between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that is important, not just for our environment and our ability to avoid brownouts and blackouts, but it's important to everyone's bill. It's a way to reduce the cost of your electricity because that's what time of use does, is it's higher rates between 4 and 9 p.m. and lower rates at the other times. And it will make a difference on your bill, a noticeable difference. Here are some suggestions as to how you can do that. Run your dishwasher, washer, and dryer in the morning before 4 p.m. at the very latest, or after 8 or 9 p.m. If your pool pump, same thing, you can actually control that and try to do it in the morning or after 9 p.m. Here's another suggestion: pre-cool your home in the morning and then set the thermostat higher to 78 higher or above. And it'll be, depending on your insulation, a while before it warms up. And that's a great way to save some money and to save energy. And then if you are doing your part of the environment and you have an electrical or plug-in hybrid vehicle, then remember to plug it in after 9 p.m. More information is available on the websites that you see on your screen. And with that, if I can figure out how to stop sharing, then I would like to do that. Stop share. That's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And it's important to remember to sign up for those rates, the time of day rates, so that you can really get the best benefit by it. I just have one thing, because Thomas Sowell did such a great job of sharing everything that's going on. And my only thing is that last week, the Spirit of Rotary celebrated the Citizen of the Year, but we had 2, they couldn't decide. So we celebrated both Kathleen Kelly and Mary Helen Kelly, and it was a wonderful event. And it was great to be part of it. So we're proud to have been able to celebrate you. Okay, we'll go to, can we have the instructions, please, to how to participate in a Zoom meeting for the public?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For those on Zoom, if you'd like to make public comment, click on the raised hand icon on your screen or your smartphone. If you're calling in using only the phone line, press *9 to raise your hand to speak. When called upon, press *6 to unmute your line. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your first and last name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move to the, are there any, we'll go to public comments. Are there any public comments on non-agendized items? Anything that someone would like to speak to that is not on the agenda this evening? And I see no hands. Can someone confirm that that is accurate?
There are no hands, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Okay, seeing no one, then we will now move to the consent calendar. And I understand that our staff has requested to pull number 7 so that they can provide a staff report for that. So other than 7, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to approve 1 through 13 or pull any other items? I see Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan's hand up.
If we can briefly pull item 13, please.
Okay, is that something that you feel needs a separate vote, or would you like to just speak to it now?
Just to speak to it, do you want me to do that now?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Item 13 contains a resignation letter from Mike Harden from the Parks and Rec Committee, and I want to briefly thank Mike Harden and his entire family. They, for so many years, have been such an integral part of the fabric of this community, donating so many personal hours to make our community better. I want to thank Mike for all that he has done for the city of Palm Desert. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, and I will bet that it's echoed by everyone on this call and just about every community member, because they have made a big difference in our community. Okay, so is there anybody else who would like to pull anything, or can I entertain a motion for 1 through 13, except for 7?
I motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of number 7. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. So is this, would this be the appropriate time to take item number 7?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, then let's see, and I think I see Mr. Ramirez. Is that who is going to be providing the staff report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, good evening to you and the members of the City Council. Andy Ramirez, Deputy Director of Public Works. Before you is a pretty exciting program that we'd like to present to you and request a staff recommendation to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Southern California Edison to retrofit over 500 Edison-owned streetlights from high-pressure sodium vapor lamps to energy-efficient LED technology. As you'll see in this brief presentation, the city is expected to incur significant long-term cost savings and reduce greenhouse emissions. Here on my next slide, I'd like to just share with you an overview of SCE streetlights and rates. And so you'll see here that for each SCE streetlight, the city pays an all-night rate based on the wattage of each installed low or high pressure sodium vapor lamp. These lamps can consume up to 75% more energy than LEDs. And as financial stewards, we have been seeing that rates are increasing across the board. At SCE, historically, rates have increased between 3 to 9% annually. This past year, the rates increased by 9%. Thankfully, as part of the city's strategic plan to be a responsible steward of natural resources by reducing greenhouse emissions and per capita consumption of energy, the Public Works Department recently identified the LS1 Option E program offered by Southern California Edison that aligns with the city's strategic priorities in regards to energy and sustainability priorities. The LS1 Option E simply is the following. It provides that SCE and the city come into agreement, whereas we allow the utility that owns 513 streetlights to retrofit the 513 from high pressure sodium vapor lamps to LED. There's no upfront cost to the city. However, an energy efficient premium charge is added to the existing city bill to pay for the program. The reduced electricity costs would fund the EPC and still provide additional cost savings annually by over $16,000. SCE would manage the project from start to finish, and there's currently a 5-month wait time upon approval to proceed with this. In addition to the cost savings, there are a number of benefits to LED lighting that was presented to RPEC, and we want to thank the committee for receiving this presentation prior. You'll see that visibility is one of the key highlights here. It really improves visibility. Our signalized intersections like Fred Waring and San Pablo, including the street along San Pablo Phase 2, currently use a color temperature of 4,000 Kelvin. This is a neutral white color, and not only improves visibility, but it decreases concealment in public settings, and so it contributes to increased safety. This is not to be confused, if you would, with wattage that assists with brightness. As you can see in this next slide, LED technology reduces light pollution, and so you can see this in the diagram on your screen. It also helps protect our Valley Stark skies. Here on this slide, the color temperature starts roughly around 2000 K in the market, which is a more amber reddish color. And as you go higher up the scale to 10,000 K, you get that very blue, colder look. So the diagram here really represents that 4,000 K provides a real balanced approach in support of overall traffic, residential and pedestrian safety. What's very exciting for us is to share with you that if we proceed with this agreement with SCE, the exciting news is that we would expect to see an annual reduction of 136 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. Very exciting opportunity here. Next, our fiscal impact. By proceeding with this agreement with SCE, we're expecting to see an annual cost savings of roughly $16,000+ annually for the first 20 years. And this would equate to over $329,000 over 20 years. After year 20, the annual savings increases to about $26,000 per year. I'm also happy to share with you that the Public Works Department discovered additional cost savings, whereas the city is now eligible to receive a monthly credit for every distribution streetlight pole that is currently in the city, and there's currently about 153. And so the annual savings will be roughly over $8,000, and this is additional cost savings. With this, Madam Mayor and council members, we're requesting and making a recommendation for you to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Southern California Edison under the LS1 Option E program. Number 2, direct the Municipal Code Chapter 24.16 outdoor lighting requirements to be amended to recognize 4,000 Kelvin color temperature as the city's standard for all street lights. And then finally, number 3, we're requesting the authorized staff to secure a street lighting consultant to geolocate our currently owned streetlights located within the city and develop photometric requirements prior to retrofitting any to LED. for an amount not to exceed 15,000. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? And I see Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just doing the calculation that 136 metric tons is the equivalent of a 29.3 gasoline powered vehicles for 1 year, or 337,000 miles driven by one passenger. So I think that staff has done a great job of presenting how the metrics evolve over time and also the financial impact. So thank you very much, staff.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or thoughts? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you. Just a quick question. And Mr. Ramirez, wonderful job all around to you. Congrats to you and your team. Much appreciated. I couldn't quite understand I think the 500 fixtures, do they represent all of the possible fixtures to be replaced with LED lighting, or are there some that will not be replaced?
Oh, a very good question. I can tell you that the 513 are the non-distribution poles that are within the city. And so that is a separate amount from the 153 that we would get an additional credit for.
Awesome.
And those are all owned by SEE.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me again, what did you call those what?
Oh, the distribution poles.
Okay, so they're non-distribution poles, the 513?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I see. There was some discussion with RPEC about whether or not there would be a place to use the 3500K colored. Is that something that, like in neighborhoods, is that something that just was negated after going through the process?
Yes, Mayor, you're right. In our time with the RPEC committee, there was an option that to allow council to choose any color, if you would, for the LEDs. And so we looked into that. We know that our neighbors in Palm Springs are near the 3000 Kelvin. However, in our city of Palm Desert, we're currently using 4000 across the board. And so we feel for uniformity's sake, it would be more recommendable for council to accept the 4000 Kelvin.
Great. Well, that makes sense. Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second and we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes, and can we stop screen share?
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes,
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. We'll now move to the action calendar. We'll come to number 14, resolution and ordinance. Resolution to approve recovered organic waste procurement policy and ordinance to amend chapter 3.30 to include the recovered organic waste product procurement policy. And this is the first reading. And who will have that? Ms. Stahl, please.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Tricia Stahl. I'm the Management Analyst for Environmental Programs. Senate Bill 1383 includes requirements regarding the purchase of recycled content paper products and minimum procurement of recovered organic waste products such as compost and mulch. To provide guidance to all city departments on how to comply with these procurement requirements, staff proposes adoption of a resolution approving a recovered organic waste product procurement policy, as well as an ordinance amending the city's municipal code to include this policy in the city's purchasing system. I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
I will second the motion. I guess that's going to be my role today.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Can we have roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. We'll move to number 15, resolution to approval of actions in connection with the parcel identified as APN 694-120-028 and a portion of 694-120-029 related to compliance with the Surplus Land Act and an exclusive negotiation agreement with Palm Communities. And who will be taking that staff report?
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. This is Jessica Gonzalez, Senior Management Analyst in the Development Services Department. Approval of staff's recommendation will comply with the California Surplus Land Act and authorize the city manager to enter into an executive negotiation agreement for the purposes of negotiating the sale of the city-owned property to Palm Communities to construct an affordable housing development on the property. The city owns a property consisting of approximately 10 acres located on the north side of Gerald Ford between Cook and Portola. In 2021, the city council declared the property of the 10-acre portion as exempt surplus land and approved an ENA with Palm Communities for this purpose of constructing affordable housing development on the property. The city's ENA did expire on March 1, 2022. Palm Communities has requested to resume good faith negotiations for the sale of this property. In addition, to accommodate the construction of the proposed affordable housing development, Palm Communities requires an additional parcel and has requested that to be included as part of this ENA. The additional parcel is an adjacent portion of city-owned property, and it is approximately 0.49 acres. Staff recommends that the City Council declare the additional parcel exempt surplus land and that the city enter into an ENA with Palm Communities to include the original 10 acres and the additional 0.49 acres. Staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there questions or comments regarding this issue? I see Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Question, Ms. Gonzalez, this 0.49 acres, was it planned for another use?
That the portion 0.49 is from the adjacent parcel, and that is part of the additional acreage of land that would be for the proposed regional park.
Okay, so the planned 27-acre regional park would be reduced to 26.5 acres, correct?
Essentially estimating, yes.
Okay, so Mayor, you asked for questions or comments. I just want to alert my colleagues that at that meeting of stakeholders with staff about the North Sphere Park, there was concern raised about the size of the park, that it's inadequate for the community needs that are anticipated. So that's just informational only, that bringing that park down is the wrong direction from a lot of people's perspective. So there may be more discussion about that at a later time. Thank you.
And I'm sure there's a way to move that size in a different direction. Councilmember Nastandi.
Yeah, I would just like to say I did meet with a constituent a few days ago that's on the Park and Rec Committee, and they do have concern about the size of the regional park. And I know Councilmember Jonathan is working hard on it. And I am of the opinion, I'm still open-minded, that we don't want to take land away from the park. We want to look at ways to give them land, but that's for further study. So voting, are we voting on this in terms of giving the 0.49 acre to this project?
That it does include, the action for tonight does include for us to negotiate, declare the 0.949 acre portion as surplus land in order to negotiate it as part of this development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, you still have your hand up. Did you have more?
Just as a response to Councilmember Nastandi's comments, my understanding is that by approving the staff recommendation before us, we're not irrevocably committing ourselves to the use of that 10.5 acres as is being indicated. It will remain an option for council to move forward with that project or not. And there may be other options available for expanding the park should council want to do that. So I don't see any harm in personally in approving the proposed action from staff.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Nastandi, you have your hand up. Did you have more comments? No, you did not. Okay. And I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan that if we need this to make this a complete development, then it can be used. And we do know that we will be looking for additional land to make that regional park be exactly what it should be for that area.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was kind of
Councilmember-
teetering on whether to ask or not ask, and Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan had asked a lot of the points, but I want to just completely be sure. Is there a way to move the ENA forward without and completely separate the two, or are we moving forward because it'll be revised? Is it possible to separate the two recommendations that staff is moving forward?
It is possible. The Palm Communities has drawn their plans and submitted them in for preliminary feedback from our regulatory commissions based upon that 0.49 acres being used in order to meet some of their site requirements. And I will just further emphasize Mayor Pro Tem's point. Staff is looking at other options as well for that park, which we'll be discussing with you pretty shortly. So we're trying to figure out a way to accommodate all requests right now, assuming that moves forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Councilmember Kelly's hand up.
Reliant on that, I will move to approve as proposed, which will give staff maximum flexibility. And clearly they've heard the concerns, which they can take into account in further shaping recommendations about how we move forward. So move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
You know, I have not been asking if there's any public comment on these, and I do want to make sure that the public has the opportunity to voice their thoughts on these agenda items. I see none, so I will assume that there are none. And now that we have a motion and a second, please, let's have a roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. Okay, we'll move to 16, which is request for feedback and direction on the consideration of a council-initiated by-district ballot for the 2022 ballot. And who will be giving us that staff report?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council. I'm Heather Horning, the Assistant to the City Manager, and I have a presentation to kick off the discussion tonight. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Here we are. You all can see that. Okay. All right, so tonight, the purpose of today's discussion is to go over the process and timeline for a ballot measure. Also to discuss open questions and receive feedback. The staff has identified a few open questions that will need to be resolved during this process. We want to talk about those. Staff also would like to receive feedback on the draft resolutions and ordinances that were included with the staff report, and receive feedback on how to proceed after all of this is discussed. So first, we'll talk about if the council were wanting to move forward with a council-initiated ballot measure. The process would include adopting 3 resolutions. The first one would be to call the election, which includes the actual ordinance language. Again, copies of these, the initial drafts are all in your staff report. The second resolution would be requesting the election to be consolidated with the November 2022 statewide general election. And the third required resolution is authorizing the city clerk to establish a deadline for the ballot measure arguments and rebuttals. If
In order for the measure to pass, once it's on the ballot, it would need to get a simple majority for its adoption. And if it is adopted, the city will need to proceed with a redistricting process to establish the 5 council member districts. And the first election cycle for these new districts would be the November 2024 general election. So staff wanted to go over a little outline of a timeline for you guys. Staff recommends really adopting the resolutions by June, but we want to identify that the last city council meeting in order to do so that's currently scheduled is that July 14th council meeting in order to meet that next deadline, which is for the city clerk to send the adopted resolutions to the county, which is on August 12th. August 22nd is the deadline for the submission of the pro-con arguments. September 1st is the deadline for submission of rebuttal arguments. And then the November 8th is the 2022 general election. So as I mentioned, staff has identified a few open questions that we'd like feedback on or will need to be resolved during this process. Staff drafted the resolutions and ordinances for the ballot measure. We would like to know if the city council has feedback on these drafts. We'd also like to know if the council would like to designate a subcommittee to work with staff on the actual ballot language. Another open question is regarding the current District 1 boundaries and whether or not they will be grandfathered in. And last but not least, we'd like to know if the city council would like to designate drafters of the pro and or con arguments to be included on the ballot. And that really concludes my presentation tonight. We're just requesting feedback, direction, and any follow-up council would like staff to perform.
Okay, thank you so much. And I see Councilmember Kelly's hand is up, please.
Since I'm the person who asked for this to be put on the agenda, I figured I should take the lead. And let me just forewarn that I'll probably speak for a little bit longer right now than I usually do, but I'll try to identify the reasons for that. I suggested putting this on the agenda because all of us who are regularly present for council meetings know that we have a steady stream of folks appearing during public comment who advocate for 5 districts. And we have a council colleague who has advocated for 5 districts. And I felt that given the steady stream of advocacy, that those folks deserve to have this brought to a head in some way that would give a definitive answer. I have to share that the consequences of some of that advocacy are really causing me to have second thoughts. And I'm still going to land in the same place tonight, that we should include something on the ballot that brings this to a head. But I want to take some time to articulate what's giving me pause, because I believe it's really vital for our community. I completely respect the motives and some of the reasoning of folks who are advocating for 5 districts. It does have advantages when one thinks about trying to appeal to 5,000 or even 10,000 people. It sounds more appealing than trying to reach out to 30,000 people. And there's no doubt that in some contexts, particularly communities where there are 2 sides of the tracks, and a city council has consisted historically of people from one side of the tracks that only invest in that preferred half of the community. In those kinds of contexts, it has been a vital form of reform and correction. My concern is that zealous advocates for 5 districts are working so hard to shoehorn Palm Desert into that 2 sides of the tracks or 5 sides of the tracks storyline that it's obscuring some really important values, traits, and characters of our community in a way that can be damaging for us. The truth about Palm Desert is that we are opposite from having 2 sides of the tracks. From its very inception, we have been blessed by leaders who are committed to identically resourcing every single part of our city. And there's no more glaring example of that than where some of you are sitting right this moment at City Hall. More funds have been invested in amenities and public resources in the area surrounding City Hall than any place else in the city. And it probably has the highest concentration of reasonably priced, affordable housing. And that investment includes the Aquatic Center, it includes Civic Center Park, and most recently, it includes all the improvements to San Pablo. Making that kind of investment in the area that has housing at lower price points is the opposite of having 2 sides of the track. And I'm going to take time to give 2 or 3 other examples because it's so important for people to understand the truth about Palm Desert. There's been a commitment each and every time an area has been annexed to bring the infrastructure and resources of that area to a par with the rest of the city. When Palm Desert annexed Palm Desert Country Club, a multi-year commitment investing millions was made to bring the flood control in that area up to snuff. Nobody demanded that. It wasn't visible. It didn't make the newspapers, but it reflected Palm Desert's core values. From its inception, Palm Desert has planned for not just 1, but 3 regional parks. Freedom Park to the east, and now, of course, the latest park in the North Sphere. Those plans weren't made by people who lived in the eastern part of Palm Desert or the North Sphere or expected to. They were made by people who are committed to every single Palm Desert resident being equally and positively resourced with public amenities. So why am I belaboring this? I'm belaboring this because we have a core identity we should all be celebrating. In an era of divisiveness, in an era when people are becoming increasingly fractured, we have a wonderful core value that we can exercise, share, pass on to future generations. But if it's obscured by advocacy that pretends we're somehow 5 distinct places fighting for resources, or we're a community in which Some areas have not been properly resourced because there hasn't been a precise geographic distribution of council members. We are obscuring a very, very positive truth. There's other ways in which I'm troubled by current advocacy and its tendency to give a false impression. I hear or read references to the three of us who live in South Palm Desert as though we're some monolithic force that's only interested in South Palm Desert and ignorant about the rest of the city. You only have to attend a couple of council meetings before you figure out that we are far from a cabal. We're distinct people with distinct histories. And I would share with you that we also live in and frequent distinctly different parts of the city. As a for instance, my home is more than a mile from Mayor Pro Tem Johnson's home. Well, this issue has been pending. I've paid attention. I've been close to his neighborhood once since the first of the year. By contrast, I've been in the eastern part of Palm Desert, the northern part of Palm Desert, the central part of Palm Desert 2 and 3 times each week. That's the reality of Palm Desert. We are still geographically sufficiently small that where we live does not define our shared experience. Just keeping track of my own travels, I have more shared experience with folks on the other side of Highway 111 than I might have based on where Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan lives. It pains me when folks appear for public comment and proclaim that they don't have a representative because we don't have 5 districts and they can't point to someone who lives reasonably proximate to their home. Just tonight, we've heard from Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan and Councilmember Nestande about how engaged they are, not just with the issues of the North Sphere Park, but with the people who are affected by the proposed North Sphere Park. If you want to be represented, you are so much better served by being able to influence the selection of multiple people who will be responsive to you than you are by finding your comfort in selecting one person who might live reasonably proximate to you. Because it takes 3 people to accomplish anything at City Council. So what could be better than having multiple people who have every reason to be responsive to you because you have participated in their election? We received a written comment today striving to persuade us that 5 districts is more democratic. And that particular theme has tended to suggest that those of us on the council have locked up our positions with big donations and high spending. That's another respect in which advocacy is really clouding the truth. This community is still small enough that face-to-face, hand-to-hand is the best way to campaign, and it doesn't cost a dime. The truth is that 4 out of the 5 of us currently sitting on the council displaced an incumbent. And we did not displace an incumbent by spending a big pile of money. The core of my first campaign was knocking on doors throughout Palm Desert, every single door that wasn't in a gated community. I learned a bunch of the issues of concern to people throughout Palm Desert, and it cost less than $50 to get the list from the registrar, and I bought the shoes I wore out at Angel View. So it doesn't take a pile of money to seek office in Palm Desert. Is 5 districts more democratic? It all depends. If you happen to live proximate to a really well-established, really competent council member, you're going to find it less democratic because you'll be boxed out from successfully seeking office. For my own money, an approach that forecloses people from running and serving because they don't live in the right place has a hard time earning the label most democratic. Despite all of those concerns that advocacy is obscuring some truths about Palm Desert that I would love to see us articulate and celebrate, I still favor putting this issue on the ballot to prompt the essential conversations to bring us to resolution. I don't feel, despite best efforts, because I know staff worked on this, I don't feel the resolutions before us tonight can be our starting point. We'll see how the majority of the council feels. My sense from past discussions is the majority of the council would not vote for 5 districts. My fear is that the language in the current drafts could confuse members of the public and give them the impression that we do favor that outcome by putting it on the ballot. So my starting point, which will be influenced by what my colleagues have to say, is that we should appoint a subcommittee to work with staff and determine the best approach for inclusion of an item on the ballot that will not similarly confuse voters, but will secure their heartfelt preference. I would also support use of some expertise in communication or public relations to make sure that the best possible information reaches voters so that they can make an educated decision. So that's where I am, pending what others have to say. Thanks.
Mayor, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. I even looked at it and, oh boy. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan and then Councilmember Nastandi, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly, thank you for, as always, your very thoughtful and elaborate and articulate analysis of the issue before us. I do believe that this issue is perhaps, at least in my time on council, the single most important issue that we have faced and the single most important vote that we will take, frankly, because I think it has the greatest potential to create the most harm to our community. And I know that we're treading these waters very, very carefully, because of that. You know, I have to be honest. I hate that for the first time in my 40-some years here in Palm Desert, we're defining our residents by race and by geographical location. Wow. In the past, they were simply our neighbors. 5 districts would only take us further down that horrible track. It would literally divide us in 5. I've directly observed councils and boards that have converted to districts, whereas in the past, they work collectively for the good of their entire jurisdiction. After converting to districts, they now work separately to protect and serve only their respective districts, sometimes at the peril of the city itself. This is the very opposite of good governance. You know, in the past, each of our residents was able to choose all 5 council members that would represent them. And conversely, all 5 council members were accountable to all the residents of our city. Because we were sued, we went to 2 districts, and now we have 1 district that has only 1 council member accountable to those residents, and those residents can only elect 1 council member, not 5. I don't see the advantage of that. Moving to 5 district would again take us further down an undesirable road. Each resident in District 2 that now gets to vote for 4 council members would only be able to choose 1 council member instead. And finally, I want to note something. The objective under the California Voting Rights Act is to form, specifically to form majority minority districts, namely districts that have a majority of Hispanic voters. This can only be accomplished in 1 area of Palm Desert, and it's been done. That's District 1. Dividing the city into additional districts would not create additional majority minority districts, and therefore it would do nothing to further the goals and objectives of CVRA. In terms of should we put this on the ballot, first of all, I think if we do so, whatever language is utilized, it's going to send a message their own favor. Why would we put it on the ballot otherwise? You know, we've had controversial issues come before us in the past, like cannabis and short-term rentals. They too inspired significant public engagement. We did not abdicate our responsibility to make the tough decisions then. Why would we do that now? And that's an open-ended question. I want to understand if the majority of this council is not in favor of 5 districts, and we have made the tough decisions, taken the tough votes in the past, which I see as our responsibility. Why would we differ from that at this point? I'm not understanding that. I'm open, but I'm not understanding that. Thank you.
Mayor, is it my turn? You're mute. Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you. Councilmember Kelly and Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, for all the reasons you both have given this evening to oppose going to 5 districts, these reasons are the reason why I voted no to put it on the ballot in the first place. For all these reasons, I believe in our motto, Unite Palm Desert. That's our motto, Unite Palm Desert. We are, by putting this on the ballot, dividing Palm Desert. I'm just going to keep it simple. You two have both eloquently stated the reasons why this is bad policy for our city. And if it's at all possible to undo putting it on the ballot and having another vote, perhaps that's a possibility, but I don't believe it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. As stated, we're here because of a lawsuit. And it was not an easy thing to do, nor was it easy to accept the settlement offer. But first, I'll start talking with some of the points that were made. And I feel that it is important to note that there are a lot of smaller cities that have already complied with CVRA. So there is no point of saying smaller cities don't have it, so we shouldn't either. In terms of this being one of the greatest issues to harm the community, I disagree. I think that was COVID. And in regards to why the US Census is including race, well, that was the whole point of the US Census, of who it was excluding, of who it was giving voting power based on their ownership, sex. So the census has been around since the inception of our beautiful democratic nation. And this is an issue now. This has always been the case. And it was really disheartening to me that in August of 2021, there was a letter to the editor about the census breakdown enables racism. And that was very difficult to read because of these. And so if anybody is curious, if you go to letters to the editor in the Desert Sun, August 16th. So I think it goes without saying that this is a contentious issue. And I feel that just the way that it may be difficult to understand how people have been unseated with a drastic vote, perhaps that has some of my peers concerned, and everyone's entitled to their option. But I have been empowered by the voters of District 1 with a 61% majority to serve on this council and serve all of the people of Palm Desert. At no point did there say your vote will mean Karina Quintanilla will only serve you in District 1 and no one else. It's almost offensive to imply that I only serve my district only. And that is very difficult. To say again and again about the character of Palm Desert, I still have yet to understand the determination to define the character of Palm Desert the way select council members do. I think the evolving identity of Palm Desert is not being incorporated. And perhaps that's what we need to lead to. 1 second, my phone is going off. This is the city phone. I think that we need to, I think that's something that we need to look at. I still have not had an exact definition of what is our charm. Mid-century modern homes, is that the only thing? I feel that the way that we elect our elected officials locally that can then serve us in Congress is the same kind of thing. They have district boundaries. And then we have a US senator that serves the whole entire state. Are they less likely to serve the entire state? Are our congressmen only going to be serving our district when they represent us in Congress? The concentration of council residences in South Palm Desert, independent of whether you're able to go ask for a cup of sugar or make it a good scenic walk in between, I don't think any of that is as relevant if you consider your access to a congressman versus a senator. I think that by having those districts, it gives you the ability to speak to someone more directly. And guess what? If people don't like my answer, they can still go to someone else. That doesn't say only Si Karina. And nowhere does it say that. And I think that when Ms. Salas and I accepted the settlement agreement, it was not our choice to go to 2. That's what was presented to us. And we said, okay, this is a starting point. So if the city wants to be angry about we have 2 districts, then take it up to council, because that was not my choice. That was not my offer, and I did not present that. So if that needs to be clarified at some point, let that be clarified. I think that another issue of where we have districts that are important is if we look at the part of Palm Desert that right now is scheduled to be or is drawn as a boundary to be part of Palm Springs Unified. I've heard conversations that that there are people that want to annex this into Desert Sands. And I think that's a terrible idea. I think that's a terrible idea, just as the way that there were people that bought their homes in I think a part of Indio And then after went to Desert Sands Unified and said, we don't want to be part of CV Unified. Then attended CV Unified and said, we don't want to be part of this district. Can you cut us out and put us into Desert Sands? And the response was no. When you purchased your home, you knew what that was. So why are we now going to go change what those boundaries were to accommodate certain people? So I think that we have a lot of issues across the board where representation does not only mean your area and your community, it means representation in a lot of other ways. I'm sure that Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan may sometimes look around in the meetings and say, wow, I am 20% of the council and I am the only male. That kind of impact that it makes when you're the only one in the room that can offer that perspective, I think is very valuable. And that is the whole point of representation. I think that we are far from compliant with CVRA. I think that there is a long way to go. And I think that what we need to do is not, if we're not going to get into agreement tonight about pushing forward with districts, I think at very minimum that we need to hire outside consultants to do this. And I think that they need to be sure to provide live simultaneous translation services. So none of our members or none of our residents are having to lose any part of the discourse when translating for another person. So that's where I'll start. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, let me respond to what my colleagues have had to say. First, Councilmember Quintanilla, I absolutely embrace much of what you have had to say. I affirm the importance of paying attention to ethnicity and race, because if we do not, we blind ourselves to the ways in which race and ethnicity may be influencing the life experience of people within Palm Desert and beyond. It'd be nice if we all live long enough to the time when that's not true, but it most certainly is true now. So I affirm the importance of that. And I affirm what District 1, what the creation of District 1 has achieved consistent with CVRA. And I affirm that, yes, we want to evolve. We want to include more people who perhaps have not felt comfortable approaching the table of civic decision-making because they haven't seen themselves represented there. I made the comments I did because I urge that it's so important to first understand the best of our history to date, so that as we evolve, that's woven into the picture that we continue to improve upon. We do have many new residents who are not familiar with some of the history that I related, about which we can be proud. Much of it was ahead of its time. So I want to make sure that our systems as we move forward incorporate the best of the past as we continue to evolve. Councilmember Jonathan, why am I pushing to have this on the ballot? Ultimately, how we are chosen is an issue that should belong to the voters. That's different from the issue of short-term rentals or drive-throughs or anything else that we've dealt with that's controversial. I hope to persuade the voters that they should affirm the current method of selecting council members. I hope and expect that they would prefer to select multiple council members rather than a single council member. But if I'm wrong, if the majority of us are wrong about how our residents feel, then we better learn that. So what I would like to see, and this shifts to your question, Councilmember Destante, what I would like to see is for our council to form a subcommittee that will bring back to us a possible way of approaching this on the ballot that will make clear how the majority of the council feel. And will seek, the public's response, either confirming that we've got it right or straightening us out. And when the subcommittee brings a revised approach back, Councilmember Destante, that would be the point of ultimate decision-making for the council. That would be the point at which we'd all need to decide, yes, let's move forward on this basis, or let's not. So again, that is my suggestion, that we appoint a subcommittee to bring back to us a revised approach.
Okay, thank you. I have a member of the public who would like to speak. I see a hand up, so why don't we go to public comment at this point? And that is Joan Spearn. Would you like to address the council, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less?
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking my call. I have not been a Palm Desert resident for very long, but, and I do want to say that the 5 district people that I have been involved with, this is nothing personal whatsoever to the current city council. So to Council Member Kelly, I do not want to give any impression that we are, that I personally am attacking you or any of the other council members in any way, shape, or form. And I appreciate learning about, some of the different things that have come about and the way that there's been cooperation among all of you. That's on one hand. On the other hand, it just, the main thing that seems strange to me, and I was one who may be in put into District 1, so I will only have the voting power to elect one council member. That alone just makes me really wonder about the legality of my neighbor in another area. And this, of course, was part of the problem with the way the lawsuit was initially settled. So that is a concern to me, that some have voting power for 4 members and some have voting power for only 1. Okay, and then another issue is about the cost. And I would be really curious to know how much money, and maybe it's public record and I can be given that information. I would like to know how much money it actually does cost to run a campaign for city council. And yeah, money is an issue. And there is a big difference between trying to contact 10,000 people in your neighborhood and walking the precinct versus the way Palm Desert is set up. It's a perfect remedy for districts, north and east. I mean, the way the layout is, it's just a natural to divide it into districts. And then I could walk the district for my 10,000 voters, but trying to contact 40,000 voters could get extremely expensive. At $1 per person, that's $40,000. So I think money is an issue. And I'd like to know what the cost, what has been spent by each of the city council members in past elections. So anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I see no other members of the public's hands up, so I'll just make a couple comments. The question is asked, why do we want to change districts just to please certain people? And that seems like what's happening, or what was attempted to happen. And then I heard the comment, I didn't have a choice. Well, yeah, you did have a choice, because no is an answer too, but you accepted the lawsuit. So that there is a choice on that. You could have rejected it. What I know about Palm Desert is it costs nothing to walk door to door. A little shoe leather, time. But knowing the entirety of the city causes you to be a far superior representative. There's no question about that. And the results are the city we see today. The results are great streets, great parks. The results are something for everybody within our city boundaries. And some of the people I know who have said, I need my own representative, I first met because they had an issue and they asked to meet with me. So of course I did. Because I'll meet with anybody, because the most important thing we can do is unite Palm Desert, not divide Palm Desert. So when we look at this and we say, let's divide it all up, let's create people clamoring for what they want in their district and catering to those voters who will elect them in their district, rather than catering to the entirety of a city, the entirety of our community of Palm Desert. That's a problem. And that is not what makes us strong. What makes us strong is working together, is creating a community that has a vision, that works together for a vision. And it's clear how I feel. I feel I represent every community member in Palm Desert, and I've always felt that way. And as a resident of Palm Desert, I would like 5 people accountable to me. 5 people who would know that if they don't continue with the vision and the values of Palm Desert, they will lose my vote. Now I have 4 people who know that. And I would hate to see us lose any more of that. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest that, yes, we have very much feedback on the draft resolution. I would like to designate a subcommittee. We do need to engage a consultant for public education purposes, because there is a tremendous void in the knowledge of ranked choice and what happens when you do divide up a community. So we do need to do that. And then after that is determined, after those 3 things happen, I think we go to the next 2 bullet points that are within our agenda. So at this time, I'd like to designate Kathleen Kelly and Gina Nestandi to take on the work of the subcommittee. And let's go over those draft resolutions, make them more reflective of the council's thinking. And after, I suppose, the first 2 things are done, we need to look for the appropriate public education agency that can help us educate our entire community. So that would be, at this point, if we are looking for a recommendation, that would be my recommendation at this point, is to address the first 2 of the open questions and requests. Yes, we have feedback, and then to designate Councilmember Kelly and Nestandi to work with staff on the ballot language and on the resolution language. So those are my comments. Next, I see Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate your comments very much. I want to note a few things. Number one, we cannot and should not enter into a debate about this, but I want to be clear. My perspective is that the city of Palm Desert is absolutely 100% in compliance with CVRA. Number two, I've never considered my role as the only male on the council. It doesn't come into my brain. You know, the issues we face, like maintaining the roads, the parks, the aquatic center, Desert Willow, diversifying our economy, maintaining our budget, and safeguarding our reserves, those issues are gender neutral, racial neutral, and have nothing to do where a council member lives. I've listened to the comments tonight, and I've actually been persuaded by the comments of my colleague, Councilmember Quintanilla. The tenor of those comments and of the discussion tonight shows me exactly why we should not convert to 5 districts. I would oppose putting this measure on the ballot. And Mayor, I heard you suggest a direction. I didn't hear you make a motion, so I'm going to make a motion. I'd like to move to direct staff to take no further action with regard to the proposed ballot measure.
Okay, that was a motion. It didn't receive a second. So if you would like.
I'll second it.
Okay, and then if you would like to make a substitute, I would suppose that's what you would do.
I don't know that it matters. I think because if you didn't say that it was a motion, there wasn't a second at the time. I think I introduced a motion, but whatever works. As long as my motion is on the table.
If there is no timely second, may I add another comment?
I need to understand what motion is on the table at this point.
I felt I had made a motion. I thought I had, and I see that Bob has come into play here. So how about an opinion from Bob?
Well, ultimately, where it stands is up to the council, but what I heard was what sounded like a motion. I didn't hear a second. I heard a different motion, which I heard was seconded, and that was Councilmember Jonathan's motion to have staff take no further direction. So I would suggest, I mean, that would be my recommendation, that there be discussion on that motion and then a vote on that motion, then we can figure out which way to go.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla, you had some comments you chose to make.
Thank you, Mayor. One comment that I left out the last time was having 5 districts does not take away from Palm Desert's history. I've heard about the individuals that built the city and those that came before the 5 of us that sit here, but moving forward with a different set of council members does not undo anything. It didn't undo anything when Mayor Pro Tem came on board. The city didn't undo anything when it elected Mayor Harnick, and I could go through the rest. So I don't think we're losing anything, and that is what is being communicated to our residents and voters. And perhaps next time I'll keep that in mind and remind Mayor Pro Tem when there is a comment about feeling isolated in some way. And the claim that being in all of the city makes you a superior leader is wildly inaccurate, because not a single one of us is superior to another. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Is there anybody else that would like to make any comments? Because we have a motion and a second. I will put in a substitute motion.
You know, may I make a suggestion? Instead of complicating this, let's just vote on the motion.
That's fine.
We can count noses. Let's get on with it.
Okay, let's do that. It will be easier, absolutely. So can we have a roll call vote, please?
And just
for my clarification, this is, I'm sorry, Councilmember.
Go for it.
For clarification, this is a vote on Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan's motion.
Yes. Yes.
Is it? I have not heard a second.
I seconded it.
Okay,
I've been in the standing.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
No.
Councilmember Nestande.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
No.
Mayor Harnick.
No.
Motion fails 3-2.
And if that takes us back to Mayor Harnick's motion, sitting around without a second, I second it.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. Are there any comments that anyone would like to make? on
Can I
this?
just get clarification as to, Mayor, precisely what your motion is?
Yes, you may. The motion is to appoint a subcommittee of Councilmember Nastandi and Councilmember Kelly to work with staff on the ballot language. And at that point, and all of the language that we saw, because the resolutions needed, I believe, clarification. So to work with staff on all language having to do with the ballot language. And I think, here's what I will say, and then come back to council with that language.
And Mayor Harnick, did you also want to include directing staff to seek a consultant for educational outreach?
Yeah, let's do that. That would be more expeditious. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So that subcommittee would only address the language of the resolution, not language for or opposed to the ballot measure itself.
Right, then we would come back and we can address the boundary issue and the pro and con. Okay, great.
And will that subcommittee, or will we, I guess if you're directing staff to engage a consultant, do you want to specify a dollar limit, or is that part of the discussion to get, I'm a little uncomfortable voting on a motion that we don't know how much it'll cost us.
Well, why?
Could I suggest that?
Please.
You have staff explore potential expertise. So when the package comes back for further consideration by the council, it would include new language as well as a proposal for that communication expertise.
Thank you. Okay, we can have a roll call vote. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I just wanted, sorry. I thought there was going to be a little bit of discussion, so I just want to briefly explain my vote. I think the proposed motion is well-intentioned, and I suspect it will carry, and that is probably a positive step. But I'm going to vote no because I don't want to create confusion about my position on this matter, which is that moving to 5 districts would be egregiously injurious to our fine city.
And I also feel the same way, but having said that, I would like to be on the subcommittee, but I don't know if that negates me being on the subcommittee.
It would not if the motion carries. The intent of the motion would continue.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes, I don't think anybody after tonight will be confused about my opinion.
Councilmember Nastande?
No.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
And I think no one will be confused about mine either. Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Thank you so much. Okay. We will now, let's see, move to item number 17, award contract to American Asphalt South, Inc. of Riverside, California for the 2021 slurry seal project. And who will be giving us that staff report?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Ryan Gaylor, Project Manager in Public Works Department. The item before you is for award of the slurry seal contract. It will be using rubberized slurry seal to coat the arterial streets in the north end of town, north of Frank Sinatra, as well as the Palm Desert Country Club and surrounding areas. I'm here to answer any questions if there are. So,
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. Mr. Gaylor, I don't know the timing of when the actual work will be done. Can I safely assume that we have learned from the past about avoiding situations where it's too hot, it doesn't settle, we get tire marks and dirt and all that? Are we taking care to avoid that type of situation?
yeah, we're aware that scuffing and these type of problems occur, and it is very difficult. Even in the best of times, there's going to be the potential for complaints, based upon an extra warm day or various factors. But this is a good time of the year to perform this type of work.
Thank you, and good luck.
Are there any other comments or questions? Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed with Mother Nature. All right, is there a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. Okay, agenda item number 18, consideration to require that a specific plan be prepared for the Palm Desert Mall site.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Eric Sahai, your Deputy Director for Development Services. Tonight, as you're aware, the city's been quite engaged monitoring the mall and its process as it's been held in receivership. We're currently partnered with CBRE for some real estate services to make sure that we're staying on top of what is happening at the mall site. We've been informed that the mall is potentially up for sale, although we are not aware of a buyer at the moment. But in order to stay ahead of the game, we're asking that the City Council adopt by minute motion the requirement for a specific plan be prepared for the mall site. This would ensure that there's a cohesive, coordinated plan in place, given that the mall itself is tied together through a series of CC&Rs and about 10 different property owners. We think this is the appropriate route to go. This will ensure that there's an engaged public process, that we go through an environmental process as well as that, and we work with the different property owners and tenants at the mall site. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Comments? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to commend staff for taking the initiative and doing everything possible to be in some level of control of our fate with regards to the mall and our community. And I would like to move for staff's recommendation.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. Okay, we'll now go to a public hearing, ordinance number 137A to approve zoning ordinance amendment 22-0001 to modify Palm Desert Municipal Code 25.34.060 regarding timeshare projects continued from February 24th, 2022.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Martina Alvarez, the Director of Development Services. We are recommending a continuance to April 28th. This matter, we have met with our subcommittee and we've had some good feedback, and we will have a report and recommendation to you on the 28th of this month.
Are there any questions of staff?
No questions, but as soon as
Any-
it's timely, I'll move for that, presumably after you open the public hearing.
Okay, any questions at all? And seeing none, we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this? Okay, seeing none, we will close.
Actually, Madam Mayor, we'd like
Yes.
to recommend leaving the public hearing open.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so
Yeah.
we will leave that open and continue the public hearing to our next meeting.
I think we have to vote to do that.
Okay, so we need a motion to do so.
I so move.
And to clarify, not the next meeting, but the meeting of April 28th, correct?
Correct.
Second.
Is that accurate? Okay. Okey doke.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0 to continue the matter to April 28th.
thank you so much. Okay, that is the end of our agenda. Are there any additional comments at this time? Seeing none, we will have our next meeting on April 14th, 2022. And seeing no unfinished business, this meeting stands adjourned.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Adjourned 5:50 p.m.